porn doesn't pretend to be sex education. There are some like porn doesn't pretend to be sex education. It's like trying to learn sex from watching porn is like trying to learn how to cook by watching Hell's Kitchen. If you feel disconnected from your sexual self, it's very context dependent. Obviously, there are going to be so many questions that you want to ask to figure out like what it is that has disconnected them. Is this like a trauma? Is this because they're not having the sex they want to have? Is this like a lack of education? Is this shame? Is it a mix of all of these things? Because it easily can be. These things are very complex. That's what I would want to get to the bottom of first. Like kind of where is this disconnection coming from? And then to reconnect to your body, a really good place to start is with in coaching, we call it vulva mapping. And in therapy, we call it clinical mirror exercise. So in vulva mapping, because I think that's actually like a nicer term. I think it's more palatable to me. No, because when I'm talking about my vulva, I don't want to say the word clinical. So
That's
call
true.
me crazy. With vulva mapping, I have clients not with me, but I explain how to do it, and then they can do it on their own. I usually have my vulva puppet, which I plan to bring in here, and now I can't find it. And I walk them through like all the different parts of the labia, all of their parts of their vulva, the labia, the vaginal opening, the clitoris, the clitoral hood, everything. And then I send them a drawing of it as well. And in the instructions, it's like have a warm bath or like a nice hot shower, whatever like makes you feel relaxed. And then like actually like look at your body in the mirror. And then they use a hand mirror to look at their own vulva and name all of the parts in correspondence with the picture. And I find that can be really eye-opening for people to get more connected with their bodies, because a lot of times, like I said, like a lot of people who come to my clinic have never even looked at a vulva before, their own vulva. They don't know what they're even looking at. They're like, what are you talking about? So it kind of is starting from square one. And so if you usually experiencing low desire comes from not having the sex that you want to be having. Like back to the whole like centering or sexuality being centered around penises and being centered around intercourse. So when people think that that's what sex is, and they don't really understand or don't really know anything else, or they think it's the best kind of sex as well, because like we have the weird hierarchy of sex where like penis and vagina sex is like the very best, when like it's actually kind of whatever. It's such a whatever on the list of like sex stuff.
Okay.
But like if you just have penis and vagina sex, there's a very, very, very small chance you're going to have an orgasm from that if you have a vulva. And so you're going to experience low desire and disconnect from your body, because you're like, this is kind of shitty. This isn't very good at all. I don't like this. And we're not, as women or as people with clitorises, people raised female, aren't really encouraged to speak about their sexuality or to be open about it or to be curious about it. And so you experience low desire because you don't know how to communicate your needs. You might not even know what they are. And you don't like sex because it's not very good.
Yeah. And like they have taught you to expect it to be very good, so maybe like, I don't think porn, and we as My Sexual Biography organization, we don't think porn is bad, but porn also has like there are some things that need to be considered and reinvented sometimes. And then sometimes, is you see women and it's a performance, right? And I think people need to understand that a lot more. But women are not going to get just turned on out of nowhere just like that. Most of the times it's not usually how it works, but then all those things give the message to female presenting people that that this is the way that it goes, and that is the way that should be enjoyable for them. And then when they find that it isn't, then that happens, as you were mentioning.
I mean, I agree, because porn doesn't pretend to be sex education. There are some like, porn doesn't pretend to be sex education. It's like trying to learn sex from watching porn is like trying to learn how to cook by watching Hell's Kitchen. Like it's not like, that's not how real life is.
Okay.
But the problem is like, so porn isn't sex education. It doesn't pretend to be sex education. It's movies. But porn has unfortunately become our default sex education, because that's the only thing that people see. And it's very damaging. First of all, it's very damaging to people with vulvas and vaginas, because we don't know what the fuck is happening and are like, oh my God, like the reverse cowgirl position, that's the best. It's like, definitely not. and then like, oh, I'm supposed to just get off by getting jackhammered by like some guy like with a huge penis. Like, great, awesome. It's like obvious. No, definitely not. I'm going to say not obviously, because it's really not obvious. And then it's terrible for men and for male-bodied people too, because then they have all of the wrong information. They learn a lot of like really kind of messed up misogynistic messages about women. And they're often seeing a lot of really intense sex acts that like are not really for beginners. Like you shouldn't just expect anal on a first date. Like it's kind of a process. I mean, some people might be into that. Like you do you. Both people are like, yeah, anal. I'm like, go for it. Live your life. Be careful. But like it's setting these like really weird, unrealistic expectations, and none of it is very pleasurable. I mean, anal can be very pleasurable, but I mean, like the messaging you're getting is like it's all just it's ruining everybody.
Yeah,
in this way.
It goes the wrong way because it's like, this is what should be pleasurable. And then you see that and then you try to do it when it should be the other way around. Like you do things and you decide what's pleasurable for you. And then you do the things that you like.
Exactly true. Yes. And it's a big problem all around. Not even to mention the fact that like it fetishizes people of different races. It fucks people up as far as body image goes because you think you're supposed to have like a very specific body. Anybody who's gender nonconforming is like pretty screwed. And it's like there's a lot of stuff wrong with mainstream porn that is definitely accurate. Not to mention all the content is stolen on those free sites. Pay for your porn. Pay for your porn.
Exactly.
Do it.
We're gonna make you a poster out of this probably. But yeah, it's true. That's one of the most important things as well. Like part of porn being ethical is paying for it because and I think this is a widespread practice. People and this is another thing, like people are more likely to go and look for porn than look for a conversation like this one, right? Which is why also porn has become that default sex education because, you know, maybe people haven't been told that there are these type of spaces where they can learn other things or maybe they just, you know, it's easier to find porn and even like when you go into gaming sites and you can go to any site and you get ads that are about porn, but you would never get ads about, you know, hey, sexual wellness, sex education. This is how your vulva looks like, and this is how it feels, and this is how it should be, and use lube. So that's also part of it.
It's a very tragic reality, very sad. It's like very heartbreaking when I think about that stuff. Like I want there to just be like a feminist sex toy site that gets ads, but like no, it's like these huge companies like MindGeek and stuff who like have monopolized the advertising market with their just terrible stolen porn.
Exactly. And there is another question that comes to mind. It has to do with male presenting people and sex toys, because you've mentioned how, you know, like there are all this type of misogynistic messages. And then there is also an effect to masculinity in there and the way they think of themselves. And then does that also affect the way people see male presenting people see sex toys? Like, are they more reluctant? Have you found that they're maybe more reluctant to try that? Or in your experience, has it been the same?
Yeah, there's definitely, I'd say female bodied people are much more open to trying them. With a male bodied person, sex toys are seen as adversaries, or like they're seen as like it's a threat to them and their relationships. Like if you need a sex toy, then they must not be satisfying you sexually. That's the messaging that's given. So like if you are with, and it's also like if a person with a vulva has sex toys, then they are probably like a hypersexual like slut, and therefore they're like not partner material. It's like the other messaging that's given out. So like because sex toys are viewed in this way, yeah, like they're much more likely to be afraid of them or to feel threatened by them. When actually there's plenty of sex toys that are also made for penises and for people with male bodies, and like they're so awesome. And I feel so bad for guys and people raised male, because like they're missing out on so much fun and so much pleasure. And the whole thing is like sex toys are your teammates. They are not your adversaries. They're not your enemies.